All right, Kenman here, and today we are on die project number 45. The 45th die of this channel. Can you believe it? Look at all these knives I've got out here that we could use. Let's go ahead and just start getting some of these out of the way. If you've seen some of these before, sometimes I can go on and on. Before you know it, we haven't gotten anything done. And we're on project number 45. All right, before we start, I am not sponsored by anyone. Purchase everything at retail price. I do these videos because I love discussing knives and sharing info and ideas with others. If you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to comment below. All right, Miguron Perism right here. Haven't had this one for too long. Little flipper tab, nice little budget model from Miguron. Really cool, nice little fun knife. It's got all this black with these white G10 scales and then that white back spacer. Let's get some last looks. Not going to look like this anymore. I'm going to hold it up here and do a little screenshot. Click. And then we'll go ahead and put that one, the before and after shot, when we get all done. I'm going to do this all in a one bang shot today. So we're going to start it right where it is and get it all taken apart, do the die, and get it back together all right here. Sit back, relax, grab that drink, snack, whatever it is you desire. And let's get into it. The table has been set. Center it. Boom. Miguron Perism. Does anyone else have one of these? It's a nice little budget knife. I believe it's a D2 steel and obviously the G10 scales. It's got a captive pivot. Miguron's got that nice logo on the one side, meaning you only need one tool to loosen the pivot, which is nice. Looks like the body screws are also T8s. Along with the pivot, which is generally the pivots are always T8s. I guess sometimes they're not. But a lot of times the body screws and the pocket clip screws, that one is done. Got to always have nice fresh bits. But yeah, so these pocket clip screws are T6s, which is pretty standard for a pocket clip screw. What is going on here? Does this slide out? Oh, it was just a tight fit. Felt like it almost wanted to slide out of there, but it was just kind of wedged into that. Doesn't look like we can swap it to the other side, so it's going to go right back into that same spot when we put her back together. Everything else is the T8s. Look at how big these screws are. Taking a couple of Migurons apart before. I've done a few dies with them. I've done a few different things, some laser marks and some anodizing. You want to check one of those out, a little bing right there. KDK Trifecta Custom Miguron. All right, let's get this off. I always like to pay attention when I take a knife apart. Make sure that if there's anything you want to put it back together the same way. More often than not, there's not a whole lot that you need to worry about. Whenever there's bearings or washer spacers, I like to see if there's maybe sometimes they have open side and a closed side. These are the same on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. But some where they have an open side and a closed side, I like to put it back together the same way that it was. All right, so we have the spacer. And take out all the little pins and stuff. Get that. Just set that on that blade there. How come this doesn't want to set itself free? There we go. All right. That has got a lot of oil on it. I'm going to grab my cloth. These are little mats that I use for the die anyway, but I try to keep them not so nasty, and I use this cloth specifically for wiping off any crazy oils when we're doing these projects. Often on the inside they got a lot of oil. And what happens is I wipe it all off and now it's gone, and I need to go back and reapply it when you put it back together. The scales you want to wash. So these, now that I'm just kind of wiping off the base part of the oil, and then I go wash them under some soapy water. Essentially, if there's any oils or anything on there, what's going to happen is that oil kind of acts as a resisting spot that's different than the other spots. And so then when we dip it in the dye, that could be an area that wouldn't take dye possibly the same. And sometimes you can't see that little oil spot. You leave it in the dye for a few minutes, take it out. Now you have this permanent little spot where that oil kind of was. It's a different shade. And the problem is you can never really fix that once you've kind of dyed them, because once you darken one, you put it back in, it's all going to continue to get darker. So it's that kind of something where you just want to make sure you get it nice and clean. Looks like there's a little pocket clip stain right there on there. Hopefully that will come off, but either way it won't matter because the clip's going to go right back over it anyway. But there you go. You can see that Miguron Perism fully taken apart. What color are we going to do? All right, we've got it set. We're going to go take these to the sink. I'm going to wash them off really good, and then we will be at the oven ready to go with the dye. All right, we're at the stove. I've got the dye. It's heating up. I've got the scales all washed and on these hooks. We're going to go ahead and drop them in, swish them around a few times, make sure there's no air bubbles. If there's any air pockets, that's an area where the dye is not adhering the same, and therefore it won't be as even. We want a nice even coat. I got the back spacer as well. Drop that in there, swish it around a little bit, and we are good. That is dye. That is liquid RIT dye. I added about 2 ounces of the dye and about 24 ounces of water, and it is on the stove just under boiling. I found is about all you really need. Just get it pretty hot. The heat activates it. I'll kind of leave it sort of in frame, but that heat activates it, kind of makes it take much quicker. Here is a few knives that I have dyed in the past with red. These are some different reds. These two reds are actually the same as the one I'm using, and these two are more of a dark, more burgundy type red. First one I did was the Civivi Vision FG. Had a chance to carry this quite a bit and use it. This was white G10. You can see where it's kind of starting to wear on the edges, that the white is kind of starting to fade a little bit. You can kind of see almost a kind of whitening, especially right there. I don't mind it though. That's kind of what happens. It ages and it kind of breaks in. But this is just a standard red. I only had it in for like a minute or two. This is the same red. Reason this one's more maroon and dull is because this started off jade. And when you do a dye, the dye affects whatever color is already there. And so you can't make it go lighter. So since this is white, the white makes the red kind of pop and be lighter. And this jade kind of made it a little more dull and brownish red, kind of more maroon. Kind of just one of the things that you get. Well, like I said, you dye only can add to the color that's already there. We're going to go ahead and sneak a peek. It's going to be a little darker than it appears in reality because there's excess dye kind of on there. And so I'm going to rinse them later and you'll be able to see. But when you just kind of take a look, sometimes it'll be a little darker than it actually is. We have some time. No rush here. Excuse me. This one I did in a fade, and so it kind of started, it's like orange to a red. If you look up here, it's really kind of a darker orange, and you look down here, it's pushing kind of orangish yellow. But I've got a kind of a motor system set up, so I've got it sitting in there, and then it slowly pulls itself out of the dye, and so the bottom is in the dye longer than the top, and so I was able to get these little transitional fades. This is a Kaiser LP, really nice, awesome action knife. Right? But that fade is fun. I'm going to be doing some more fades in the future. Today we're just doing a nice solid red, kind of make it pop. Here is the Kubi Blood Raven. It's got a really neat kind of darker red, almost burgundy red wine kind of a look. But the Kubi Raven, now Blood Raven, I love it. It's a fun knife. Kind of has like a old Flying V kind of guitar look to it as well, right? And then the other Kubi, this is the Mert, a little bit darker on the red. This one was a brownish tan, kind of sand color. This one is also a white G10. So those whites really make that color pop. And you can see this was like a tan color. So the difference is it's a little bit more dull. Plus this is a G10 and this one's micarta. So the micarta will obviously take a little differently than the G10. I think micarta has a little bit bigger pores in it, so it can soak in faster. But I still think you can get similar results with both. What's everyone think of this Kubi Mert? It's a fun one. All right, let's take a look. See what we got going on here. Not bad. I'm going to move these over and I'm going to bring my rinse. Got just a water rinse, and when we put it in here, it swishes all that dye off, and then you can really kind of see what we're looking at this point. So it kind of neutralizes it almost immediately. Oh wow, that's really neat. I'm going to take the spacer out too so I can keep them consistent. If I am going to put them back in, I don't want the spacer continuing to dye and everything else not. Wow, because these are contoured. You can see those contour lines on there that look really cool. I actually kind of like it, this lighter shade. Kind of reminds me of my Towser K. I feel like I want to make it a little bit darker red though. I do like this quite a bit. We're going to go back in another couple of minutes here. There we are. And we're going to let her rip. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the time lapse speed through this for the minute or 30 seconds. Yeah, it's probably going to be a couple of minutes, and I'm going to leave it in here. And then we're going to take them out and we're going to dry them off and move to the table and put everything back together. Okay, the scales are dry. They look good. We are back at the table. Let's put this thing back together, huh? Okay. Enjoy these all-in-one die projects. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Okay. So reassembly the captive pivot catches on what? I believe it went through this side here. All right, so it gets caught on the notch inside that right there. Wow, look at the inside red. Okay, so this is the piece that goes on this side. And I should have paid more attention. Pretty sure that one goes up there. This one goes there. And this must go right there. Okay. Then this goes over the top. We are doing things, right? And the bearings are the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way I drop that on there. There is the knife. Just put that closed for now. Put this over the top of that. And we are making things happen. There is a collar. I'll drop that collar in there first. And let's get this thing buttoned back up. I'm not going to completely tighten it down yet. We're going to kind of get it started. When you put a knife back together, you got to be careful about the blade centering. And so I usually get everything just loosely started, and then we'll go in and crank it down and make sure that we Keep that blade where we want it. If it doesn't work out, you can always take it back apart, loosen everything up, and then redo it. Here's where we need to make a decision. Do we want it just all black like this? I also have this titanium one, but the titanium one doesn't quite match the black on this side. It does kind of match the titanium in the color in that Miguron logo. But comment below, should I put this titanium one on there or get a black one for it? Or for now, I'm just going to put the one that came with it back on there. We'll be fine with that for the time being. Oops, these are not T8s, they're T6s. See if I can get that lined up in there. There we go. One more. Those don't look like they were the same height as each other. Let's hope I put those in the right position. I always like to go back and forth with the pocket clip a couple times because when you do the one next to the other, it kind of relieves a little pressure on that first one. Okay, so I like to tighten the pivot all the way down, and it'll be a little bit tighter than you want it to be. So it'll push the blade that direction. And then when you loosen it, it'll bring the blade back to where you want it to be. Now, this is a pretty simple design. Just got these couple screws right there, and that's it. Get those nice and tight. Okay, and then we'll back off the pivot just a little bit. Drops that blade back to center, and then the main thing you want to check for is when it's open. Is it solid when it's open? If it's not solid when it's open, then you probably want to crank that down a little bit more. That is definitely solid. And we are success. Get everything out of the way. Clean this off. Boom. We have done it. I love it. You know I like my black and red. This Miguron is a great budget option if you're looking to get into the Migurons. This might be one to go with. Did the backspacer in the matching red, so you just got that nice black, red, black, red, red, black, red, black, red, whatever. Very clean look on this one. What does everyone think of the final product? Easy flipper tab, swing shut pretty nice, good action. Blade is solid, and we did get it nice and centered as we want. All right, I'll hold it down here. You can see that before and after shot. Full success. Let's get some close-ups. Oh, I like this knife. You know, for, like I said, they're in their kind of their budget world. This one's really clean looking, and this red and black sell. Plus, it's got the contoured scales, so with the contour, it's going to naturally show off these layers as it sands down the edges, so it has that kind of natural kind of wood grain sort of a look and feel. Oh, quite happy. Kenman approved. Oof. So I do have this other Miguron, my Talism. I've had this one, Talism. Valona. Sorry, scratch that. Rewind it. Playback. Miguron Valona. It's all stormtroopered out. Same kind of deal with that spacer. Nice and white. What happens is with this white over time, it is going to kind of get less white. And I've considered dyeing this. You guys know something about this one? Check it out right there. But yeah, if you're looking at a nice Miguron, this Valona is sick. It's big. Should I dye this one? Similar to this? Different color? Leave it as is. Miguron's cool. Check them out. Stay sharp. See you soon.